All right, well, welcome to the Tape It. All right, well, welcome to the Tape It Till You Make It podcast.
Oh, that's in. That's it. That's our intro.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, welcome to another episode of Tape It Till You Make It. I am your host, Peter Carlone. I'm actually not a full-time, I guess, staff member at Nora Vera, but I am one of the, can I say I'm one of the family? I feel like I'm one of the family.
I think you deserve to say you're
Yeah.
one of the family. You're in the WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, I'm in the WhatsApp.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way.
I'm in the WhatsApp, and I have a Slack account. Like, I'm
Yeah.
part of the family a little bit. So I'm a contractor here. I do a lot of the directing. Some of the directing. I do 20% of the directing and various other tasks whenever they contract me to do that, which is kind of fun because that's what we're going to be talking about with one Michael Laing today. Round of applause for Mike here.
Ooh, that's soft round of applause. I'll take it.
I was too worried the mic. As you can see, I'm going to be doing the claw hands all day. If you're watching on YouTube, which you should be doing, by the way, like and subscribe on YouTube. But if you're just listening to us, you'll hear our sultry tones, and you won't see me handling the microphone to keep it from bouncing up on me.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're talking about is contract work. We're talking about freelancing today because, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are kind of new to the freelancing world
Yeah.
in terms of filmmaking.
Yeah, I'd say I've been freelancing since COVID, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting time to start freelancing.
Yeah.
But prior to COVID, I was pretty much working at a few different production companies as a in-house cinematographer.
And so the pandy, so to speak, kind of kicked you out into the world of freelancing a little bit.
Yeah, it was like just a straight push out to go freelance right during COVID because it kind of made sense. It was like there's zero productions kind of going on at the time, so
Right.
everything just completely was a standstill in that world. So obviously just had to make the transition to freelance from being full-time at Nora Vera, which still worked out pretty well because I still work with Nora Vera very regularly and shoot a ton of their stuff. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like I was pretty lucky to ease into freelancing and continue to ease into it because I had such a good relationship here and still part of the family and just still working on a lot of productions for Nora Vera because they've now gone to the full contractor route with their DPs. So it's worked out.
Yeah, so that works out. So you've been doing it for a little bit of time since the pandy, like you said. I've been freelancing, I'll just get, full disclosure, probably for 8, maybe 10. I'd have to figure out, because the thing with freelancing is sometimes you fall into it, right? Like I kind of eased into it based on my other work, started leaning more towards just picking up side jobs, and then eventually
Jibs are good too.
Jibs. I picked up some side jibs. I have a garage full of jibs.
Yeah.
and none of them are good.
Super handy.
Yeah. So yeah, probably maybe even 10 years now. You can almost say. And how have you been liking it so far?
Definitely a transition.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons versus working, say, in-house as a cinematographer somewhere versus freelancing. I think there's a lot of pros in the flexibility world. You kind of what you put into it is what you get out of it. And you can kind of create, I don't want to say create your own schedule to it because that's when you're busy, you're insanely busy and there is no schedule. You just keep working and kind of have to do what you can to survive. But you do get a lot of flexibility and just not needing to go into somewhere 9 to 5, right? You can kind of build your own schedule quite a bit and just, it's kind of more chill that way. Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot more stress that comes along with it, which is if you don't have work, you don't get paid. Where before, for the last, because I worked at a couple production companies prior, Nora Vera being the one for a few years before going freelance, and the comfort of there's always a paycheck waiting for you, whether or not you had shoots that week, whether or not, it's just a comforting feeling. Mm-hmm. Where in the freelance world, it's all about connections, all about, if the more people the more work you end up getting. And that was probably the hardest transition, is just the comfort of not having that paycheck every 2 weeks to just going out on your own and needing to find your own work to make money. But like I said, I had a pretty ideal kind of push into the freelance world because I still work at Nora Vera very regularly. It almost feels like I'm a part-time or more employee here. So super lucky that way.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a good truth about the freelancing world is you kind of leverage your relationships. So whether or not you are going to be freelance or not for a while, you can leverage the relationships you have with your past companies to kind of like help skate through that. But that is, as you become more and more freelancer, you're going to be like, yeah, that's all it is. It's just like various production companies I'm going to start having good relationships with and doing more shooting, hopefully.
Yeah, and the balance is like you have good relationships with production companies, which is nice because if I'm going to, say it's Norvera I'm shooting a lot of stuff for, and I can contract as a DP for them and go and shoot a lot of their projects. But then if you want to branch out and start taking on some projects yourself, obviously you can do that as well. Maybe it's obviously being just a freelancer, you can't be taking on some of the scale of that Norvera takes on because of the producing side that goes into it. It's like very hard to do that by yourself. But there's a lot of kind of full projects you can take on yourself, as well as, say, for me, like freelance DP jobs. So it's like you kind of get a bit of a balance of both. That. And one of the things, actually another thing that I probably struggled with the most going freelance was the producing side. So like having Carrie, Ash, Sarah all here.
Right.
And just they take care of everything literally in the production. And then I would just, be a part of some of the pre-production meetings, a bit of the creative, and show up and shoot essentially. But I always knew the amount they did and appreciated what they did when I was here. But when I left, I appreciated it even more because some of the projects that I was doing and taking on the whole project, it's just constant emails, constant logistics, like figuring everything out on a production, plus having to like either direct or DP it and whatnot on top of that. So like that's been a big transition, is just the whole producing side of it and having to do a bit more of that in the client communication, which is fine. I think it just eats up a lot of time, and I definitely appreciate what they do.
100%. And I think, the producing side of it it's the biggest lesson that I got from doing freelance is how much you have to become a one-man army, or a one-person band, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I always kind of had I don't know why, like I would fantasize or whatever, it's sort of like a pirate version in my mind of what freelancing was. So it's like, you kind of are just floating out on the open seas of the industry. Yeah. And whatever you can catch and kill, you can eat. And that's your paycheck. So you're not getting paid regularly. You just feast off of whatever is out there. So you just find a gig, you find a contract, you see if you can run it down before some other company or some other freelancer can take it. And that's your kill for the week. But you have to know how to sail the ship entirely by yourself. Or you can have other freelancers that you regularly work with. Like you start to build out a little network, almost like a pretend company of people who are like, oh, this freelancer always does the producing side of things. So then you start to build out a team. And that was one of the big lessons I had to learn in the mid game of freelancing, was like, don't try to do everything yourself. And I think Norvera taught me that just by seeing, it's like, oh yeah, there are people who are very good producers. There are people who are very good editors, and just like build that into your budget that you need one of them. If you can get those, if you can land those bigger gigs.
I think that makes a huge difference to start budgeting for, certain roles. Like there's like kind of when you're first freelancing, obviously, like for me, it was a bit different because I kind of came into it with like Norvera and just a bit of a different way from from scratch to just having nothing. I came into it with a good bit of experience. So I never really was doing the whole trying to take projects on myself. Every project that I'd say take on and pitch on, I would pitch on it in a smaller but similar way Norvera would, where you're crewing up for everything, right? Yeah. So if I didn't have time to do the edit, I didn't have time to produce it, whatever it might be, like these roles are built into the pitch. And that's like you're saying, I think if you have a good group of people that you work with, like freelancers regularly, that you know are good at what they do. Like we just did a project recently together where I hired you to direct it. Yeah. So it's stuff like that. It's like, I'm not, just find the right people to work with and like use them to your advantage, and kind of you're giving each other work. So that obviously really helps, just like the consistency of work too, when you're in that freelancing world and you're working with each other.
I wish you could go back in time 8 or 9 or 10 years and tell me that when I started doing the freelancing, like a good piece of advice for freelancing would be exactly that. Like immediately start building up a team. Yeah, it makes all the difference. So although I did work at 2 different production companies over the last while before freelancing, I did a bit of freelancing prior to that. So very entry world to video production and whatnot is kind of how I started with freelancing. Yeah. And I'd do the thing where I'd take on all these projects by myself and just be the one-man band that
showed up to things, and it was fine at the beginning, but then I learned how much I hated that, and it just like the creative juices really run out pretty quick when you're trying to do everything yourself. But everybody kind of in this world goes through that at some point. They're just like the one-man band, and that's how you start. It was like years back now, but like you got to start somewhere. And just now getting to go into like the second phase of freelancing for me, it's a whole different game how I've approached it, and it's worked out pretty well.
And unfortunately, there's a bit of a catch-22 there. Like, so I think you're coming into freelancing with a build-up of skills and even some stuff that you can show, so you can command a higher rate. Like, if we're just getting down to the bare bones of it, when you're starting out, if you're a student or whatever, and you're just going into freelancing, you might have not a lot of team members, or maybe your team members are just as green as you are. Yeah. So you're not able to command a very large budget or even ask for one. You can try, and if you're lucky, you'll get it.
Yeah, I think.
Congrats. Well, but you have to build. You have to kind of build. It's almost a catch-22. You have to like show that you can do that work before you can get that work.
Oh yeah, your portfolio is everything. If you're like talking to clients and you're trying to pitch like a decent-sized project, and you propose this like pretty big budget, but you can't back it up with any work that you're kind of similar to what you're pitching on, well then like the chances of them going to you obviously would decrease quite a bit. So your portfolio is definitely a lot in the freelance world.
I find that it almost mirrors the business world as well. Like, as much as we think freelancing is this whole other beast, there's still a lot of overhead to set up a company. Like, you need to, like you said, shoot a portfolio. You should probably sink some cash into shooting some stuff you really want to shoot to show that in your portfolio, like some spec stuff or something like that, if you want to kind of move up and start getting bigger budgets. So that's like a business. It's like overhead that you have. Then you have to build a client list, and you have to build a team. Yeah. So in a way, it's just another version of sort of a more agile company, I guess.
It's a mini business that I feel like you have, like, you can pivot a lot quicker though when you're by yourself, right? Like Nora Vera, like they're established and everything, such a good client roster and whatnot, but there's a group of people here, like however many people it is these days full time, like maybe 10 or so.
Oh, too many.
But it's like obviously a little trickier to pivot the whole boat than when you're a freelancer. You can kind of move a little bit quicker.
And we keep saying that they've got to fire most of the staff.
It's got to go down to at least like one,
they
2
should
people,
get back down to one, maybe 2 people.
We're never gonna get work after this podcast from
we just got fired. We just got fired. No. Okay. One thing I wanted to pick up that you said that I really liked was creative juices. And it flashed into my mind this image of juice.
This goes back, remember when we were doing some internal marketing stuff for Nora Bear and the juice box idea?
Oh yeah, we did the juice box, bursting with creative juices.
That's random, but that's what came to my mind.
For a freelancer though, I think one of the things that I would offer up as a piece of advice, not that it's necessarily the advice podcast, that's not what we're here for. You know what I mean?
Why not try to drop some knowledge? Do what you can.
But it might not be knowledge. I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out there, and you're going to tell me if it's knowledge. I don't think that your administrative juices and your ability to come up with a gear budget and the juice required to do that, and then the juice required to literally just load your vehicle. And then creative juices, I don't think those are 4 different juices, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's one of the issues with freelancers is the burnout, because
100%.
Because you need time. Let's say for this, for the commercial that we did, there was time required to sort out locations, to deal with the client itself, like back and forth. But you also have to just sit and think about how you want to shoot it. And then also you have to sit down and write it.
Yeah.
So there's all these different hats as a freelancer that you might have to put on. And I think that's one thing to be careful for and watch out for. And you may need to make sure you block time out to be like, I need to have time to be creative.
Yeah.
And if I've spent the entire day doing logistics and trying to solve problems, like, we need to rent a van. Okay, I got to find a good price on a van. You spend that whole day doing that. By the time, and you're like, I'll write it in the evening.
Yeah.
By the time the evening comes around, you're going to find, time to put on the creative hat and switch on the creative juices. But it's like, no, you don't have a different reservoir of juice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all just in one big bucket. Yeah, and then you're just pulling from the same thing.
Freelance juice.
Well, I'm pretty big on niching down. So once you know what you're good at and what you want to kind of pursue. So like for me as a cinematographer, my goal is to do more, DP work or whatever. Obviously in the freelance world, sometimes you're doing a bit more producing than you might want to do in those cases on your own projects. But I'm definitely like niching down on something once you know it is that you want to do. I think that's where you can kind of be able to kind of veer around what you're saying and burnout, because like when you're pitching on stuff, just like think of it like this is my job and like I want to hire out for these other roles, right? So if you want someone to come in and help you produce something, hire a producer. If you want someone to come in and direct it, hire a director. It's not that simple, obviously, because sometimes you don't have the budget for all these things, but that's the goal, is to surround yourself with these people that like can help you, so you're not always kind of going up against burnout. Because if you're trying to be the do-it-all person and try to like take on all the different aspects, then that's when you're going to be like, obviously, like you're saying, like 9 p.m. at night and you're just sitting down to like send some final emails after the day because your just day was absolute chaos. But if you can kind of on certain projects start building a team around you, I think that makes all the difference. And then so for me, like every project I do, everything has, it's quoted with obviously a director usually, unless I occasionally will take that on. But like for the most part, I'll hire a director and then I'll shoot it. And that is the thing, I still do produce quite a bit of the stuff myself, because obviously you want to hit like another budget threshold before you start like giving everything away, all of the roles, because then you're just going to start making less money at that point.
You just start to,
but I think that's kind of how like you have to kind of, if you try to do everything yourself, there's no way you won't burn out. Like it just,
or
craziness.
You'll be able to take on one project every 2 months or
that.
something.
That's a big thing too, is like, I think in the freelance world, like your time management is everything. Cause like, it's so easy to just, you only have so many days in a week. And like, as soon as you say book like 2-3 shoots in a week or something, it's like, now you're trying to book meetings to push these other projects ahead. And you're like, I don't have time for meetings anymore. I have to like edit these days, and I have to like, so time management's obviously huge.
So here's my challenge. Here's my challenge to you then. Let's say you're early on. This is early game Peter Freelancer. Yeah. So I know I should have charged more. That's I think step one is always charge a little bit more than you think you should. But like, let's say you've got a budget of like $3,000 or something like that, but you need a bunch of stuff still. How would
Shouldn't
you
have taken it on?
So the best
that
thing
seems like where this is going already.
The best
but
thing
all
to
right.
do is go back in time and not do it.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Yeah, because there's opportunity cost involved. Like, what are you missing out on because you said yes to some videography to go shoot a corporate retreat or something like that?
Yeah, I think I'm huge about getting in a position where you can say no to stuff. You want obviously enough like different like kind of projects coming in from different areas, like whether that's like the freelance like DP world or whatever, plus taking on your own projects, but just being able to put yourself in a position to not have to say yes to those kind of things, because you didn't really finish describing everything. I guess.
Challenge. I didn't say my challenge yet.
But it sounds like the type of project where it's just like burnout is waiting to happen, because you're not. If you take on a project and at the beginning of it you're already skeptical if the price is like so low that it's going to cover like the pain points, and you're going to get frustrated, it's like you're probably not going to enjoy that project. Yeah, I would say.
Well, and I'll be totally transparent with you. I still do like sub $1,000 jobs if it's something that I'm going to get something personally out of. Do you know what I mean? Or if it's like I know a way that I can lower the overhead so much that it's literally a one-day job.
Yeah, I'd say I'm in a different boat than that, where like I won't do that kind of stuff, because so for me, I find more value with my time in, say, spending money and doing a spec ad for my portfolio versus I would then kind of putting myself in a position of a really low budget project that I'm going to show up and kind of know that I won't like doing it. Like, it's just...
And I'll be honest, a lot of those are like, oh, we have a live stream in the park we want to do with like a little thing where we're going to do some cooking or something like that. And it's like, oh, that's fine. I'll bring one camera, or I'll bring 2 cameras so I can do like a wide, and I'll bring my live stream gear, and I'll charge you for that, and then I'll charge you my day rate of like 500 or whatever. And then I will come out, and like my call time is like 5 p.m. and I'm done by 9 p.m. And that's all I had that day. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, I know that I can get through that quickly. I know it won't weigh down my inbox too much. So I'll do it, and then a chunk of that can go straight to a spec ad or something like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, but I agree with you, and I think what I've developed. So I agree with you, first of all, that like you should definitely say no to a lot of those, and I probably should say no a lot more often. Yeah. But I've become addicted because I've had lean times as a freelancer and really, really good times. Yeah. But a lot of times I'm like, I just know that I'm going to want an extra couple $100 lying around in my account, in my business account next month. So I'll just like, I think I see them as like, not, okay, I'm trying to come up with like a polite term for it. Not like fly swatting or something, or sniping a quick thing or whatever. But I'm like, I can just go out, grab it, and be done. and I won't even think about it.
Yeah, but I guess like we've talked about this quite a bit as well. Is like those take up time, obviously.
You're not wrong.
And they're
You're
just
not
like
wrong.
throwing a little bit of money in your account, which is great.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to be comfortable, but when you're trying to get to that like next level, like
Yeah.
and keep pushing to whatever that might be for you, do you want to direct more commercials or whatever you want to do, and you're trying to get to that next level, that kind of stuff, like you're saying, it doesn't take up a ton of creative juice, but it's still something you have to think about. You have to like
Yeah.
prep for, show up and whatnot, and if the rate's not very good like that, then would it be more beneficial for you to be putting your time and energy into a spec ad maybe?
Right.
But like that's the balance of freelance, and that's the hard thing. It's like you're saying, where's the next paycheck coming from?
Yeah.
Obviously, like especially in the summers with production, it's like you can forecast a good bit out. Like the summers are going to be fine. I find like I'm newish to this, so it's like, but the production world's always pretty busy in the summer. But like if you can forecast say out like a few months or something, it's like I'd turn down that kind of project in a heartbeat, and then just like put that time and energy into a spec ad. But that everybody's different in how they want to kind of spend their time as a freelancer. And that's just what.
Well, no, and I think there's a couple things going on. One thing that my wife always says to me, which is that I take on too much.
Yeah.
Because I have a really bad habit of looking at my calendar, and if I see an empty spot, that's bookable. But it's like, no, you should still have a weekend or something like that. But I'm like, I don't have weekends anymore. I just book every free spot I can find. And so it gets to places where in a month I'll have like something every single day.
Yeah, I had that for a while. Like this is like a week and a half ago. For the 2 months before that was just like chaos. It was just always like so many projects on the go that was like the stuff like I was saying that I was producing myself and full projects I was taking on / just Nora Vera was so busy, or still is so busy, that there's a lot of stuff coming in through them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it was just complete craziness in a good way. Like obviously being that busy is awesome and no complaints about that. But then this last week, I think it was, is it this week, last week? Oh, everything's meshed together.
All blurred together.
Yeah, but like I had like 3 days where I was like editing. Like I hadn't edited much in a long time because most of my stuff is like DP work for the most part.
Yeah.
But I was like the project that we shot together that you directed.
Yeah.
I was editing that, and it felt amazing to sit down in an office and just like edit and do some admin stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to have, I think it was 3-4 days out of the week that were just like in office.
Totally.
Felt amazing.
You're just an office worker for 3 days. You're like, this is the best.
Yeah, but if I had to do that every day, I'd go a little crazy.
Well, and that's the problem. So, for example, like I snuck away. I guess did we cover the challenge? I think so. Yeah, you would just say no. The challenge of doing a one-person small gig is you would say no.
But going to that is I kind of when I went freelance this recent time.
I'm going to pause you, though, just because we didn't really talk about the giant water bottle that you just drank from. And this is classic Mike Laing. For those of you who are watching, if you're listening, go to YouTube right now. Go to Nora Vera. Type into the YouTube. Go look at this episode. Zip forward about like 20 minutes. And you're going to see the size of this. It's not even a water bottle. It's a canteen. It's a cistern.
Anyone that's out there in the production world needs a big water bottle. Everybody knows what it's like to get dehydrated on set.
This is a fine size. You just got to fill it up a couple times.
That would be done in like 2 gulps. No.
Okay, I totally cut
big
you
water
off.
bottle life is a good life.
I totally cut you off, but I feel that it was worth it. I needed to point that out.
Yeah.
You were talking about having that downtime, being able to like sit in an office. And then I was going back to you about the challenge of doing these small gigs.
Oh, yeah.
Which you're a hard no on usually.
Usually, so like when I went freelance this time, obviously doing a lot of Nora Vera work, like being with them for a few years, is like there was not really the odd time you might be sent to do this very small a few pickup shots by yourself as a cinematographer, but it was pretty rare. Like the smallest thing you do is 2 people, usually more. So when I went freelance, I knew I didn't like doing anything by myself, like just going on shoots solo. That's kind of not why. I don't find it collaborative. I don't find it creative. I just like it's just not. I kind of don't enjoy that at all. So like I said, when I'm either pitching stuff or doing a project, it's just always built into a quote that I won't do it myself. Like there's the rare time I might, but it's always just built into a quote to like me and a director, me and even an AC, whatever it might be. I just like yeah, I don't enjoy doing the solo shoots, so
Well,
I try to avoid it at all costs.
No, but I like that. And as a follow-up piece of sort of learning or something from freelancers is to like what I liked what you said about niching down. That's something I've been doing in the last few years, which is realizing, okay, for example, again, more transparency here. I'm not necessarily God's gift to cinematography. I'm all right. I can get your stuff in focus. And
That's key.
And I can put 3 lights on you, one behind, one big one to the front, and we'll call that the key. But like, it's fine. It looks serviceable. It was something.
I hope your clients aren't watching this.
I don't let them see any of my personal
work
stuff.
is okay.
When they ask me what my actual name is and I'm working for them, it's Hank Cavendish.
Oh, great name.
They never know that I'm Peter Carlone.
Yeah.
They'll never be able to find me ranting.
Even
about
though
how
you just
bad
said
I
it
am.
now.
Yeah, this is a problem.
This podcast gets like 2 million views.
We're gonna cut
it.
it. We're gonna cut this out. We'll cut this whole episode out probably.
All right, yeah.
So no, but what I was gonna say is like that is hard for freelancers to do. A lot of freelancers, I think, and so kudos to you, but a lot of freelancers, I think, are kind of a take on the world kind of person.
Yeah.
And it's fine, and that's noble. And some people are even very good at it. I'm trying to think of like what's that director that made freaking Spy Kids? What is his name? He's.
I'm not going to be able to help you with this one.
I know. I'm going to have to look it up. Desperado. I think he also directed that. Anyway, there's a lot of people that like can actually shoot, direct, then edit.
Of course, yeah.
And then this guy scored the whole thing.
I personally think some of the best editors are directors a lot of the time.
Well, oh yeah, totally. So having that ability is great, and fostering skills in all of the fields is perfectly great. But one of the important things that I liked what you said about being able to niche down and actually being able to do that in your own mind, in your own heart.
Yeah, I think
you know
like
what? I'm not gonna. For me, sorry, I'm not gonna like do DP. I'm not gonna try to focus on DP stuff because I'm not catching it as quick as others do.
Yeah,
and I'm finding way more fulfillment out of even just ADing. I love ADing or directing.
Yeah.
Because it's working with people, and I was like, oh, that's my strength.
Yeah. I think there's definitely like to have a little bit of knowledge in all different aspects of production is huge. And I think when you're first starting out, you should definitely know. I think knowing how to edit obviously is huge, but just knowing a little bit of each kind of, direct a little bit on some shoots, do some cinematography, do just like help out as an AC, do a bunch of different roles when you're starting out. But I think once you realize what you get stoked on and what you are actually kind of seem to be better at, definitely niche down on that, because I think that's just like the smarter way to go. Instead of being the jack of all trades, I just think that's kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none kind of scenario, where I just don't think that's kind of in my mind, the best route to go, and that's kind of the approach I've taken. I also came from being an in-house DP at Nora Vera, so I like kind of knew my route.
Right, you already
going into freelance. It wasn't,
there.
So it's a little bit of a different scenario, I guess.
I think to your point, and what is kind of funny is apparently that saying is actually longer, but we trim it off, and it's something like jack of all trades, master of none. Better still than I forget what the actual.
I'm curious. Look that up now. I feel like I've always heard it of jack of all trades, master of none. I don't know if I've heard the longer.
There's
version.
Another longer version to it, but it's still the same. It makes the same point, which is that as a freelancer starting out, or anybody starting out really, you should develop skills across the board.
Yeah.
So that you, at the very least, understand what goes into it. So it's like I don't know much.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know much about sound design or good location sound, but I know enough to know when I've got a good location sound person.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know enough to know when I'm listening in my headphones if that's good location sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think like to have that base knowledge is huge. To kind of and then start on hiring out more and more people for different jobs once you get to a certain point.
Okay, I found it. Jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than master of one. Is the full quote, or it's often
does it say
used as the full quote?
Who that quote is? Who made that quote?
Peter Carlone.
Oh my God, I thought it was Peter Carlone, but then
that's one of my classic quotes.
Oh, you're Peter?
Yeah. Sorry. Hank, I'm sorry, Hank. Hank, nice to meet you. I'm Hank. I don't know. I want to look up to see if that's the real thing. The other thing I was looking up was, yes, it's Robert Rodriguez, a famous jack of all trades and master of many of them. So I'm pretty sure somebody in the comments hit me up below and be like, no, you were wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's El Mariachi, this like
All right.
awesome Desperado style
Yeah.
movie he made, where he did like most of the work. Like editing and sound score,
All of it, yeah.
dialogue editing. He shot it, and
Yeah. Oh man, that sounds intense.
it sounds intense. And sometimes you
Learning
are gonna,
experience, though.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you are going to have to do a lot of jobs.
100%. Yeah.
And this will be kind of I think my concluding question here.
We
sort
already
of.
what? What time? How long has this been?
We're cooking on a certain number of minutes.
It's been incredibly quick.
Talking with me is always going to be super
Yeah.
quick. Because you just get lost in my eyes.
Yeah. Gotta love talking to Hank. Is it Hank? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hank. It's Hank.
Yeah.
To my clients, it's Hank. To my friends, also still Hank. I don't like Peter. I'm moving into
Yeah.
Hank now.
Pilot Peter? Pilot Pete? No.
Yeah, okay. First of all, you keep calling me Pilot Pete on these shoots. And so I go home to my wife and I'm like, oh, maybe I could have a production company called Pilot Pete. That's kind of fun. And she's like, no, that's what they call the guy on, what is it, Bachelor?
The
Is it
Bachelor.
Bachelor in
Bachelor?
Paradise?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah.
It's one of those shows. I don't really watch them. You're obsessed with them. So is my wife.
do not.
They're your favorite
Oh,
shows.
no.
And I'm
Oh,
fine.
no.
And I'm fine that that's your
I'm being
favorite show.
framed as a Bachelor person now.
And I'm fine that you love The
no,
Bachelor.
No, here's what happens.
Yeah.
Kelly, I go home. She's
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
The Bachelor.
Yeah. Oh, blame it on
We
the
have
lady.
one TV. I
Sure.
sit there and I'm like, I get sucked in. And,
Yeah,
they're not bad.
You get sucked in because it's your favorite type of content, and I get that, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
My dream is to film those shows. That's
Would you actually?
No. No.
If the budget was right.
I don't think it'd be. I think those. No.
I think editing would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
'Cause
Just
you get a lot
overall,
of
no.
footage.
That's not the world I want to be in. So.
So this is my last question, and this kind of that's a good segue. The world you want to be in. Okay. A lot of people say that freelancing. The reason you freelance. The reason I freelance is I like freedom and I like control, even though I end up working like 60-hour weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
I like freelancing because it just does feel. I just can't have. I was going to say this earlier and talk about routine. I can't have routine. And it's really good for me to have routine. I worked for 10 months on a small writing contract at Electronic Arts. And
With the full name, nice.
EA Games, baby. And during that 10 months, I lost a bunch of weight, like got down to a really healthy weight. I was sleeping better. I was working out like frequently, which is a thing I never do. And I still was so excited to be done.
Really?
The routine was so good for me. I got so healthy.
Yeah.
And the last day of that routine of showing up every day, I was like ecstatic.
Yeah. I'm big. Like the balance of that, I like routine to an extent. Obviously,
it.
not like complete 9 to 5 routine. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in this industry. But
Yeah,
I like
of
the
course.
variety. But some routine is good because I like to be able to build my life around something, like not complete chaos of like. And that's been a transition going into freelance. Is it is a little bit of chaos because you
Yeah.
don't know what week to week it might look like.
Yeah.
But I like a bit of routine, and I do. That's one thing I miss about being full time here is there's a bit more routine, and the thing I miss most out of anything is just the coworkers and just the work banter is just I love it.
Work banter, I love. Routine, no. But I also fully agree with you. I should have more routine in my life, and routine is really good for you. And even as a freelancer, it's even more important.
I think getting an office space kind of helped for a while.
Yeah.
Renting an office space, but I've kind of pulled back and I haven't gone into it as much lately. But for a while there, it was building a lot more routine for me going into an office, and you build more structure around getting there by a certain time and leaving and then try to detach instead of like your home being your office. But then for me, like as a cinematographer, it's like half the time I'm just out
You're
shooting
out
anyways,
anyway.
and I'm not using the office. And that's when routine is just out the window and you're like getting up at 4 a.m. so I can go to this location for sunrise by 5.
I don't
whatever
know.
it might
I
be.
don't know what it is, and maybe it's just a bad like mental health situation or whatever. But I despise any routine.
Yeah, fair enough. To each their own. What I have a question for you.
Yeah. But I still have my last question. But okay, go for it.
Was that not your last question?
No. I got it.
You're still going?
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna throw one at you.
Yeah.
What's your goal and what's the future of freelance for you?
This kind of works.
Okay.
So a lot of people get into freelancing, and I sidetracked and talked about routine, and that's why a lot of people like freelancing because it's like a shake-up of the regular 9 to 5 style. But the other reason people go into freelancing is because it allows them to pursue their personal trajectory goals, right? So and then what I was going to bring up was one of the pitfalls of freelancing, and something to be aware of is that you think By freelancing, you're going to have so much more time than you would if you were at work to make personal projects. And you have to be careful. Yes, you can, but sometimes in the valleys when you don't have lots of work, that would be when you want to do all your personal stuff. But it's also hard because you don't have a lot of cash lying around, and you're leaning on that cash.
You gotta manage your money a little bit.
You gotta manage your money. No. I'm not saying don't manage your money. I'm just saying like the downtimes can be a little hard, not even financially, but also mentally. I find the downtimes can be hard on mental health because you're also, especially if you accidentally tie your worth up in your work. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, so I don't have work on the horizon for the next month, so I'm worthless. And you're like, no, just relax. And you're like, I'll tell that to my brain.
Yeah.
To relax. And that's you're not in the ideal position to make your creative stuff, even though that's like the perfect time.
Yeah.
So guard against that. Prepare for that, to know that you'll have these challenges in the way, but also treat it like you would if you were doing a 9-to-5 and you wanted to shoot personal stuff. Like, try to squeeze it in when you find a moment.
100%. Yeah.
Or try to squeeze it in when you have like, oh, okay, this one is going to get me in trouble with like rental houses, but it's like you've got to shoot on Saturday, so you pick up on Friday. You've got to return the gear on Monday because they're not open on Sunday.
Oh, I know. It's
now
always
you've got
it's like
Sunday to shoot.
It's like, wait, so I have to pick up the gear and then I have to return the gear. So now I can't book shoot days on either of those times.
Oh, that's a problem too.
Yeah.
Unless you hire somebody to do that, but then it's like, well, how much is that going to cost you? Like, you know, it's a whole thing. But or try to cram shoots in and around when you're renting gear.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying,
that is, or you're saying for like when you're trying to do your personal. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, I think. What was that one that? The one that Leo and I did a while back, the Walter Caesar mix one. Yeah. That one was, I think that one was built
around some rentals.
I want to say it was built around another shoot that we had, so we could kind of use some of that budget, put it into our spec ad that we did, and kind of, I think we shot it over a weekend, so we had the gear, and that's like super handy, like you said, to if you have a shoot on a Friday, you don't return it till whatever is that, Monday, and then you have these 2 days with the gear just lying around. It's like, make use of it if you can.
And so that's kind of the heart, and I'll get to what your question because it's a perfect segue, but that's kind of the heart of what I'm saying, I guess, is like when you think of those valleys of work as a freelancer, and you're like, oh, I'll just put off all my personal stuff till then, until I don't have any work booked.
Yeah.
I would almost argue, I mean, obviously do whatever works for you, personally, and as advice for the people listening. But what I'm saying is, know that it's more like biking, where it's like there's going to be times when you're just going to have to go all out, like pedal like crazy. Yeah. And that's when you should be trying to fit in your personal stuff as well around that time. Yeah. And then in those valleys, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Use that time to not try to be obsessed even more with filmmaking. Use that time to make sure your mental health is in order, your house is in order, your personal life is good.
Yeah, just take a step back.
Yeah, read a book. That's free.
I haven't done that in so long.
I know, right? And this is all advice I'd love to give myself. Like, I'm going to listen to this back so I can be like, oh, I should do that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I love putting personal stuff off, as you know, because we have a spec ad we're trying to shoot. Yeah. And I haven't finished writing it. And it's like, because I keep putting it off because I'm like, oh, I'll wait till I'm not busy. But it's like, but the goal is to be busy.
Well, I think the momentum of being busy helps sometimes too. Because like when in the freelance world, you get so busy and caught up in like what you're doing. And then like you have this dip in work and you're like, okay, I can relax for a second. Yeah. So like your mind is not really in the world of like, okay, I can relax, but I'll try to jump into this spec ad. I think like the momentum of being busy, for me at least, kind of, I think when we did the Walter one, Leo and I were both pretty busy at the time, and we just fit it in and we just made it work. And the momentum of just kind of all these productions and stuff, we just like squeezed in meetings and script writing and stuff to make it work. And we just, you know, a little bit of it we had to wing just because we only had so much time to prep for it. But it's like we just made it work as a spec ad and kind of just built off the momentum of being busy. And the thing, like you've said before, it's like cash flow is decent. You're going to be way more willing to put in more money into the production as well, obviously. So like it's not a bad time when you're busy to try to squeeze it in if you can. And I think like spec ads, in my experience, it's like they're never not worth it. They're
spend the money, but make sure you can
for the creative juices and your portfolio. Like it's just like they really. That's why, you know, you get into this world to like shoot the stuff you want to shoot. Totally. That's what spec ads are. So.
Well, and to use my amazing bike metaphor, right? It's like you're biking, you're going all out to get to the top of a hill. Yeah. As soon as you get to the top of the hill and start coasting down, like you said, all that energy is different. Like you're not gonna want to like on your way down the hill. You're not like this is the perfect time to pedal super hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's for me. Like I said, I was editing for like 4 days in a week, and it was a little bit more chill than things normally felt. But so like my momentum kind of went down a bit for like the craziness. I wasn't feeling like that was the time for me personally to like push forward on like a spec or something.
Yeah, I love that. And so okay, we'll wrap it up on your question there, which was, what do you want to do? Because I'm going to throw that back at you, and we're going to have to end it soon because my microphone is breaking off of the table currently.
You're too aggressive.
I was holding it so it didn't bounce up.
It.
No, look, if I let go, it's coming off the table. 100%.
You really like to live life on the edge, eh?
I don't like routine. The fact that I've had to
routine is definitely like a mic being clamped to the table. That just that's routine, right?
But this is the metaphor, right? Like this is how I live my life. We're gonna punch in on this if we can in post. This is how I live my life. This is how you like to live your life.
Oh, thanks. That's like that is the best compliment I've ever had.
Nicely.
I'm like a nice clamped mic.
Yeah, you're like a nicely clamped mic, and I'm like a decent mic, but I like to be pretty loosey goosey at the same time. I like to throw you a curveball.
Great metaphor.
What I want to make is I want to get into more directing. I would really love to follow the some of my inspirations would probably be like what's his name? I can't remember his name, from The Lonely Island. Akiva. I can't remember the guy's name.
Throwing all these things out there that I don't know.
It's a comedy group, and they got onto SNL, and then now he's like transitioned into directing comedy movies and stuff like that. I think that'd be so fun. That'd be something I would love to do, like comedy action movies. Yeah. I dream of one day making like a Fast and the Furious type of movie. They're just so much fun. I just want to make. I love, as an art form, and I will defend this as an art form, popcorn movies.
Okay.
Any kind of movie that makes people just shovel snack food into their mouths while they watch big bright explosions. I defend, first of all, as a perfectly valid art form and one of my favorite art forms.
What would you say? Give an example. Well, I guess, give an example of like something you'd want to make.
Okay. Well, I don't want to reveal it here. Okay, because I also
too
think,
public.
Well, I just don't want to keep talking about my idea.
And then someone steal it?
Either someone might steal it. Somebody's going to come up with it eventually. Somebody's going to make it. But also because it makes me feel like I've got a little reward for doing it. Okay. Every time you talk about something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to like keep the idea tucked away in your head so that it boils over, and then you have to make it.
So it just never happens. It just gets stuck in there forever. Like our spec ad.
It's basically a comedy horror movie that I want to make.
Okay.
It's like Cabin in the Woods.
Is this the one that
the
short that you were telling me? Like that your friend has a cabin and you wanted to go shoot something?
No, that's another thing we are going to do. We're going to do that in like September.
Yeah.
I have to tell you about that. I got to book you, by the way. But like, no, this one is Cabin in the Woods. Okay, imagine like unwitting family goes to a cabin in the woods, but there's like a bunch of zombies that are going to kill them.
All right.
Only this time, the unwitting family is a group of UFC fighters.
Oh, twist. I like it. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. So for those who don't know, Peter is also an actor.
This is fully broken. By the way, this microphone.
It'll survive, I think.
Okay.
But actor Peter, director Peter, guy.
Keep going. I'm going to try to do a repair.
What this movie that is this a movie? This is a short film? Is
the thing I just pitched?
Yeah. Would you like to also make an appearance, a cameo?
Yeah.
Are you?
1 second.
What in the world is happening?
This is the most exciting episode that we've had.
Ever.
It just broke. It just broke right.
Peter's also a gaffer.
I'm going handheld. Okay, I prefer this.
So I guess my question is, do you the thought of like co-starring or something in something you've wrote and then also directing it? Because I find that incredibly impressive. Which I think Benny, one of the directors from Nora Vera, has done that where he will star in something and he's also written it and directed it.
Right.
Which I find incredibly impressive. Does that something like that interest you, or do you like to just more sit on the directing side after you've like kind of written something?
Honestly, it's 50-50. I think I would love to direct something that I'm in as well, but it's I like storytelling more than I like telling my story.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that as shade against somebody who likes directing the stuff they're in.
Yeah.
But I like, for instance, one thing I want to do, which I need to figure out if this is like how to do this in an ethical way, right? Is tell different perspectives. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Tell other people's stories without being, I don't want to be like exploitative or whatever, or I don't want to be like, oh, you have no right to tell that perspective's story.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about it. And it's like, I know, but as a director, my job should be enabling the true storytellers to do the storytelling, the writers and the actors and stuff like that, and then adding my expertise to it. That's one style of directing, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's also auteurs and stuff who have their own vision and their own perspective, but I love the idea of just enabling awesome stories. That's kind of my dream. But as far
That's
as
awesome.
comedies are concerned, like, who cares? Like, I'd love to act as well. In
Yeah.
this thing I pitched you, I imagine I would be the guy at the bottom of the highway before they turn off, at the gas station, being like, don't go up there. It's haunted up there.
Are you? Which one? The
I'll be the guy
Febreze
that-
spec ad thing, or the short film?
I'm gonna act in the Febreze spec ad just because we can't afford actors.
Yeah.
But in the film that I pitched you just now,
Yeah.
the Cabin in the Woods one,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the guy being like, don't go up there. It's haunted.
Okay, I can see it for you. That
Don't
seems
go
like a
there.
fitting role.
Right?
Yeah.
No hair, scraggly beard.
Yeah.
I'll
Like-
yellow my teeth a bit more.
Yeah. I think you'll nail it. Hey, you
Yeah.
have very white teeth.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I brush them. What is something before I have to go repair this? What is something? We'll wrap up on this. What's your sort of dream? What's your direction you want to go?
My dream.
Febreze ads.
Yeah, I just want to do like Febreze spec ads all day long, every day.
I love it.
That Peter writes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write you a Febreze ad every week.
Good question. That's a loaded question. That's a tough one. I've only been freelancing for so long, so it's a
Sure.
little tricky.
But you've been
It's-
filmmaking for longer.
True. So coming from the production, like video production company world, I love, like I said, like kind of the having a group and a creative idea and all working on
Yeah.
it together, which is kind of what you miss out sometimes on freelancing.
Yeah.
So like I've been in two minds of like I really like doing the freelance cinematographer world stuff, and I think I'll keep doing that obviously continuously. But I also have been in two minds of like having a mini production company type of thing versus the freelance DP world.
Yeah.
So right now exploring a little bit of both, because like I said, we like even the project we just did, like taking on full projects like that and producing them and whatnot has been good, and editing those. But then I also am like really liking like the freelance DP world. So if I push down that route more, which it'd just be getting into more commercial work. I just love doing like the commercial
work.
side. Yeah.
Commercial
side
work,
of
but with
things.
like a step towards creativity, I assume. Like a
Yeah.
step towards like pushing the boundaries of what a commercial is, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. But like
Yeah.
that general world, like the commercial world's kind of like where I'd like to live. Like for me, I'm not a big movie buff. So like when I got into this world, I know, crazy. Most people are going to hate that comment. But I didn't get into this world because I'm a big movie buff, and
Yeah.
most people do.
Yeah.
I just got into it for the love of like making things and
Right.
making visuals, like images and stuff.
But maybe
like,
maybe that's why we get along so famously, is because, like I said,
we
about,
do.
Well, kind of. For the podcast, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, because what I'm hearing from you is that you like enabling, like you like make the business of making, the craft of making stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the craft of enabling storytellers, rather than, I didn't get into filmmaking to make my movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got into it to make movies or to make stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got in it. You didn't get in it to like see your film vision through.
Yeah.
You got into it to make films, to make videos.
Yeah, to make videos, just to be creative, to make images. I just like, kind
Yeah.
of just fell in love with the whole making images side of things, and like
Yeah.
versus, not to say like I would love to shoot a short film.
Of
I'm
course, and
all
we're
about
going
that.
to.
I would definitely do that. But I'm just saying from like day one, I'm not, and I've definitely come to appreciate films more and more now.
For sure.
Obviously over time, but like I didn't get into this being like a big film buff or anything like that.
But
So-
I kind of that's why I'm feeling that. Like I kind of like that, because to me it's like, I think sometimes a lot of people get into, especially acting, get into the business because of the ego. Because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I think I have something really amazing to bring to this, as opposed to like, oh, I really like this world and I want to see what I can add to it or contribute
Yeah.
or take from it, like as far as
Yeah.
lessons about life.
I think that's you saying the word ego just made me think like in another just thing in the freelance world. What I've noticed is like as a freelancer, just like don't have an ego, and it makes your life like so much easier in my mind.
Totally.
When you like go on set, if you're meeting new people or anything, like everybody's like kind of the more you meet new people, because you look at everyone's work from the outside and you're like, oh wow, they do such good work, and like, do they even do like corporate videos or like basic interview stuff ever? But like everybody's out here just kind of, you know, wanting to do the same thing, make like cool creative stuff. And like when you go on set with different people, you just realize they're also in a similar boat, just like, you know, out there like trying to make their path work or whatever. But just when you're meeting new people, just to like not have an ego and not like, you know, go into things, just like having an open mind and meet people and be like a easygoing, nice person on set. Because I feel like when you think of like the past of like the film world and all these like older guys on set from the past, it's like there's just this negative thought of like everyone's like such a hard ass or something. But and I also think that's pivoting now a little bit, but just like don't be that person. And I think your world as a freelancer and the more connections you make as just being an easygoing person on set will like go a long way.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think like, you know, in this new modern sort of like more, I would say more progressive age, like I think the idea of the ego and the egotistical, especially the egotistical dude is like coming to a pretty quick end. One of my friends who's an artistic director, Caitlin, she said like there's just too many great people now to want to work with assholes. For I don't know if we can
totally. There's like so many talented people out there now, but I think half the battle is like, are you enjoyable to work with on set? Are you easygoing? Like how's that whole kind of dilemma?
It's not enough to be like so full and confident of yourself and you're kind of a jerk to work with. That's not gonna, you're not gonna get far anymore. And I'm happy for that.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like a great step, a great direction that like I think that's pivoting a bit. And the people that just aren't nice to work with on set probably just get less jobs. I don't know.
And eventually 0 of them, please.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that like that it's also important to remember like ego is not the same as confidence. That's what I have to try to learn. Is like I want to be more confident, because my whole mantra like early on was like kill my ego before it kills me. But the problem is then you get very sheepish and you're very honest about what you don't know or are afraid of. And then sometimes it's like, well, now you're going to get less jobs because you're always like, oh, I don't know if we can do that. I haven't done that before. I'm not
I think
sure.
there's a huge balance between like the confidence versus an ego, right? Like you want to come across confident, like you know what you're doing. But then there's like the balance of like you don't want to like mess something up. So it's like when just admit when you're wrong or admit when you don't know something, and someone else on set might be able to like help you. It's like as a DP going on to a set, if there's certain things that I might be unfamiliar with, but there's like a gaffer there or something, it's like just like utilize both the brains together to like make something work instead of just being like thinking you know everything as like the DP on set. That's kind of, I just find like the collaborativeness is, and other people enjoy that so much more if that's how I think if that's how you like work with like a gaffer on set or ACs or whatever it might be, like to be more collaborative together. It's like everybody is obviously feels more a part of the whole production, and I think it's just better for everyone.
And that's a privilege we have in the sort of non-union world, and I think that's going to start to spread a little bit. Where it's like, we're going to have to start to like, kind of gray area everything. We're going to have to start collaborating more about getting things done.
Yeah, totally.
We'll figure out. But listen, we talked for a little bit longer than we should have. Quite a lot longer.
Oh, no. How long was that?
2.5 hours, I think.
What?
So, first of all, big thanks to Mike Laing and his giant water tower that he managed to have a front-loading truck bring in here and drop off. And thanks for watching. You can remember to like and subscribe, and you can pick this podcast up, I think, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on Spotify.
HMV? They have it at HMV?
Yeah, you can get... Is HMV even still around anymore?
I doubt it.
You can get this podcast anywhere you get them, from Spotify, and it'll be released every Thursday. Check out norvera.com and sign up for the newsletter as well. I'm Peter. This is Mike. And I don't know. We'll see you on the next one.
Do you think this podcast was good?
Well, as I was doing my outro, you started saying, "Do you think this was good?" Like, I think you would have been nice if you
waited. Did I just
waited.
screw up the entire?
Yeah, if I had
podcast?
gone like, "See you next one," and then beat, and then you were like, "Do you think that was good?" Then they could be fading out.
So my timing is just awful.
No, it wasn't awful.
Okay.
Your timing was different than what I had expected. Good timing would be.
So bad timing. I'll take it. Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm just joking.
It is what it is.
I'm being mean.
Get the podcast, HMV. It's out there.
Cut it and cut.